and welcome to In Conversation. Our guest today is Dr. Malvika Iyer, who refused to let an accident in which she lost both her hands dictate the course of her life. Today, she is a disability rights activist and a motivational speaker. Before we start our conversation with her, here's a brief introduction of her. Dr. Malvika Iyer's story is that of courage and determination. An Indian national, she was born in Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu and grew up in Bikaner in Rajasthan. She was only 13 years old when a grenade explosion blew her arms off in 2002. Undeterred by the tragedy and despite being bedridden for 2 years, she appeared for her Class 10 exams and scored 97% with just 3 months of preparations. The then President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, invited her to the Rashtrapati Bhavan to congratulate her on her feat. She studied economics at St. Stephen's College in Delhi before doing her master's, MPhil and PhD in social work. Dr. Malvika went on to become a motivational speaker, disability rights activist, advocate for inclusion, and a model for accessible fashion. In 2017, she was invited to deliver a speech at the UN headquarters in New York, and the same year, she also co-chaired the World Economic Forum India Economic Summit. In 2018, she was awarded with the Nari Shakti Puraskar, the highest civilian honor for women conferred by the Government of India. In 2020, she was among the few women achievers who were selected to take over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's social media accounts on International Women's Day. Dr. Malvika continues to inspire millions of people to overcome the physical limitations with the power of optimism and take on the world with confidence and hope. Dr. Malvika Iyer joins us from Michigan in the United States. Welcome, Malvika, to Doordarshan.
Thank you so much, Munmun.
So you've walked the ramp, you've addressed the United Nations, you've completed your PhD, and you are a motivational speaker. You've got your hands full. There is one thing that you often say to people when you meet them or in your talks is that the only disability is a bad attitude. Tell us about your story that is inspiring millions.
Yes, that is my favorite quote. The only disability in life is a bad attitude. I'll share my story, and I hope that with that story, you are able to relate to this quote and know that I think the only thing that holds us back truly is, the negative attitude or the insecurities or the fear that we have in life, and not anything other than that. So I'm going to take you back to the year 2002. This was in Bikaner, Rajasthan. That's where I spent almost all of my childhood. And I was about 13 years old. And I would say that before that, I had an absolutely wonderful childhood. I had a very healthy, I had lots of friends, a very happy, cheerful, healthy childhood. And then on this particular day, it was 26th of May, 2002, I met with a grenade explosion. A grenade exploded in my hands, and in that very instance, I had lost both my hands from my wrist, which you can see. But more than that, the severity of the injuries was to my legs, both my legs. I had multiple fractures, nerve paralysis, hypoesthesia, that's called loss of sensation. So it was a very scary day, I would say, for me, for my family, for everyone around me. I was not going to survive. In fact, our family doctors had completely given up on me. Even they couldn't even give hope to my parents. They had said that, only God can save this girl. And I was in that kind of a gory mess. But I did survive, and I made it through that night and made it through several nights after that. And since then, I would say that I have carried very proudly my identity as a survivor, because I don't believe in the word victim. It would not be fair to call me a bomb blast victim. It would be fair to call me a bomb blast survivor, because I think everything that has happened after the accident, I would say it has made me realize I would say the beauty of life, the short life that we all have, or the wonderful experiences that we all gain. And in the end, I think it's our spirit that we never lose. And that's what I would say that, being a survivor, I associate with.
Malvika, that's really a touching story, and your grit is remarkable. What role did your family, your parents, particularly your mother, play in the aftermath of the accident? Because you often say that your mother gave birth to you twice and made you learn how to walk twice, once as a toddler and then as a teenager. So, what were the kind of conversations that she had with you after the accident?
My parents, I would say, they were my, source of strength. And I think each one of them, both my mom and dad, and also my sister, they have played a very important role in rehabilitating me and making me a very normal, healthy individual, even after such a big accident and having, almost gained a permanent disability. I would say the first very important thing that my family did for me was treating me as an equal, not in I think there is a common misconception that, if you are a person with disability, you immediately become a liability or a dependent on the family. And often these remarks such as bechari ladki, I have been told that I'm a bechari ladki, like a poor girl, several times by people when I would visit hospitals or other public places. But my family sheltered me from that feeling, because those feelings, when someone would make such a remark, that would really hurt me. But my family really protected me and made me realize that there was nothing, absolutely nothing bichari about me. And just like I was, my sister was, we were just equal, the two of us. So I think that was a very important role that my mother played, like treating us equally and treating us uh, that there is absolutely nothing wrong with me. Another thing I would say is her positive attitude. I think after my accident, each one of us, my dad, my mom, my sister, I think all of us have a very different perspective towards life, because you never imagine something so traumatic happen suddenly, and is, it just in a moment the whole life, all our lives changed. So I think we have as a family together, we have taken I think our approach towards any challenge that came after that was what next, or how do we solve it. So that perspective, that positive attitude is what really helped me to keep going.
I've spoken to other peoples with disabilities as well. Major DP Singh, he lost a limb in the Kargil war, and after that, he became India's first Blade Runner. We, I also spoke to Pagya Prasoon Singh. She is an acid attack survivor who's now helping other burn survivors in every way possible. They say that what they expect from society is that they should be sensitive towards persons of disabilities, but not over sympathetic. Is that a fine line that is important to underline here?
Definitely, Munmun. I think attitude is, I would say, a very, very important word, very important, especially when it comes with a diverse group or a minority group. It is our perspective and the perspective of the society. It can completely make or break you. And I have personally, I would say, experienced both inclusion and exclusion. I've noticed that how including a person with disability can, make remarkable changes to someone's life. And my doctorate thesis, the topic of my doctorate thesis was also on this particular issue. I studied attitude of young people, college students, towards people with disability. And before I interviewed these college students, I interviewed around 10 people with disability, and I tried to understand what are the domains, what are the fields where they feel excluded, during their school, college, or, when they're in a relationship or a marriage, or what are the positive or the negative biases towards them. Positive bias, sometimes, it's like you're worshiping, or, you just put them in a very high threshold that a person with disability is, it's just putting a very unreal kind of a idea towards them, or have an like unrealistic expectations. Or at the same time, a negative bias could be as bad as, considering them that that they seek sympathy, or they're going to be a burden to the society. So these kind of biases, and also behavior towards them. So these are the various domains that I try to study from people with disability, and then I took those learnings, and then I studied college students. So Attitude is very important, and they are formed at a very young age. So that's what I wanted to understand. They're formed at school level, they're formed at college. So when we are exposed to different kind of people at that age, that's when we are able to have a more open minded perspective. And young people are our future leaders, they are our future policy makers. So it's very important to ensure that they have a broad perspective and they are more inclusive towards such diverse groups. And this was what my thesis was about. And I have also learned one learning that I want to share with you is, and I agree with that, sometimes the attitudinal barriers of the society, I would say they are more of a challenge, they're more of a restriction than perhaps the physical disability of the person.
Were you always as accepting of yourself as you are today, or was there a turning point that made you realize that you should be accepting yourself the way you are?
I don't think I was always this cheerful and positive, definitely, but I wouldn't say I was this accepting of my body, because I think when the accident happened, I was a 13-year-old teenager, and having to accept this new body, new legs and new hands, and not being able to wear the clothes that I wanted or feel comfortable in them, or wearing my prosthetic hands. I used my prosthetic hands for about 10 years, till I recently have stopped wearing them. I feel more independent now without my prosthetic hands. So it's a confused story for me. I'm still figuring out cosmetic hands. But I think I have had a challenge with I had when, especially when I was in college. I think I used to compare myself, because I would look at my peers, able-bodied peers, and I would wonder that, I wish I was like them, but I was no way I was ever going to be like that. And it's not that I wanted. It's the realization I had after that constant urge that I wish I was like them. Then I finally understood that there is so much that I can do, with these hands. And in the last 5 years, I have discovered that I can cook by myself and not just make simple things. I can make the most beautiful sabzis, or paneer sabzi or dal, or I can make anything with my hands. I can chop vegetables and I can make a whole dish all by myself. And I love cooking, and clean the house, doing my dishes or laundry, or taking care of people, or anything for that matter. Anyone my age, I would say that I am as independent and as I would say I'm able to do everything that a person my age is able to. And I think these are the things that I needed to accept. And not having, how did just having two perfect hands, how is that any different from me being actually able to do everything and even more comfortably in my own skin? So I think it took time, because I think we have that, right? We have been sometimes brought up in that mindset of that constant comparison, that the other person or a peer group or a neighbor is better, neighbor's child is better. So fortunately for me, my parents never compared me. In fact, they like held me in a high threshold that I'm so good at everything I do. So that really helped me. And with time, the acceptance came that, this is what I'm good at. And I started discovering, like, I'm good at speaking. So I took up speaking as a profession, or so many things. I was a dancer before my accident, but I couldn't dance anymore. I was a trained Kathak dancer. So it took time to accept that I couldn't dance again, but I discovered new things about me. So I think acceptance is about, I would say it is the greatest reward that we can give to ourselves. And once we do that, we are invincible. Nothing can ever stop us after that.
Malvika, I would say that you shifted from being fully able to being extraordinarily able. And I looked at your academic record. That again is remarkable, because that shows your interest in studies. Your scores are flattering. It would flatter anyone, in fact. So how did you choose your subjects for your master's, MPhil, and PhD? Because I see a common thread running in them.
So I think education was very important, has played a very important role in my life. Being able to continue my educations after the accident, I gave my 10th privately, and then I joined regular school for my 11th and 12th. And I did my master's, MPhil, and PhD in social work. So that's the subject I chose. I think there was this kind of calling that both my mom and I realized if someone like me talks about disability, I think it is more visible, it's more heard, because I have had a personal experience with it. And I realized that I was able to do a lot more when after I chose this subject. I had a more better understanding of the subject with my research as a background. I was able to better understand it was not just about the loss of limbs. Disability is much, it's not an identity. Disability just doesn't mean you lose limbs. It's so much more than that, and that's what social work as a profession helped me understand. And through that medium, I would say, with the research background, I would say that all the speaking platforms, for example, I got an opportunity to speak at the UN in New York, or I got the opportunity to co-chair at World Economic Forum India Economic Summit. So I would say that being a social worker really helped me understand the nuances of what I wanted to continue with my life, and being an advocate, being an activist. And I think all these identities together, I have been able to work upon that. And so I'm very glad I think I've studied in the best of schools, both in Delhi and Madras. And yes, so I would say I'm glad I made that choice of choosing social work as a profession.
In fact, I was quite astounded to hear you talk about how you've typed your 250-page PhD thesis with your finger like protruding bone. That must have been quite a challenge.
Yes, this is what, as you can see, this is my, I would call this my extraordinary finger. I am really able to, I was able to type my entire thesis with this. I know there are a lot of, softwares that help us, accessible softwares, with voice, but I think there's some kind of magic that when you think and you write, that connection is what I wanted. And this hand, I would say this surgical, this was actually, ideally the bone, you're supposed to have it together. So you are able to rotate your hand like that. But for me, these two bones were joined together. So this turned out to be a silver lining for me. And I ended up having a protruding bone as my finger, and I'm able to connect with the world. A lot of people are curious. They constantly ask me that, how do you type? So I can just tell you that this is how I, hold my hand, and this is how I type. And I keep getting these questions a lot. And yeah, so this is how I ended up having a wonderful finger.
And then how did you decide to become a motivational speaker and tell about your learnings to the whole world?
I decided that I have to go out and share my story, because for a very long time I was somebody who would hide my hands behind my body, or try to avoid shake hands, or just avoid completely talking about my accident. So I decided that I had to go out and I had to speak, and I had to understand about people who are living like me, or people with experiences like me, and I needed to break that shell. So I gave my first TEDx talk. I think that was I would call my biggest I think my entry towards motivational speaking. And after that TEDx talk, I received a standing ovation for my talk, for my first talk. And since then, I think it has been a wonderful journey, being able to speak across the country, both north and south of India. And then also I started getting a lot of invites outside of India. I think I got to speak at Singapore, South Africa, Norway, Indonesia, and here in the US at the United Nations. So I think I have absolutely loved speaking, connecting with people. And I think the best part of speaking, I would say, is being able to positively influence the lives of people. And I think even if each one of us do it for, even if a friend or a colleague, if you're able to positively inspire someone, I think you have achieved great success in life. And I have enjoyed doing this. I would say I love what I do. I don't think I would have been able to do that if this accident hadn't happened. So I consider my accident as a blessing, because it's with the help of these experiences or the challenges that I came across that I was able to have a more meaningful life, or I was able to do something with my life that helped a lot of people cope up with their challenges. So I would call this accident definitely as a blessing. At least I take it that way. I don't want to take it any other way.
And you've addressed so many fora, like you just told us. You've addressed the United Nations. You've co-chaired the World Economic Forum, India Economic Summit. How was it speaking from the high table?
I was very scared. Honestly, I was super nervous because along with me, the other co-chairs were union ministers and CEOs. So it was not, I was the youngest co-chair. I did think I was very scared during the opening plenary. I had my script prepared, but I think with time, I opened up and then I started sharing. I realized that with this power, it came a big responsibility that I had a great platform to share my message on inclusion, my message on the power of young people. So I think I took it towards my stride, and I completely enjoyed. That was a truly overwhelming experience, but at the same time, a very proud moment for me, I would say.
And you were also one of those who got the opportunity to operate Prime Minister Narendra Modi's social media accounts for a day. I think that was on International Women's Day in 2020. How was that like?
I think our prime minister has the largest following Twitter account from what I know. So, to have my message of acceptance, of my message on inclusion being shared from his channel, and I think it was truly a dream come true opportunity for me, and definitely a very big platform for me to share my message. And since then, I would say that I think so many, like thousands of people have reached out to me since that amazing day of, trying to learn more about people like me, or, wanting to do more towards inclusion, or, working towards a more inclusive society. So definitely, it was a very, very proud moment for me and my family.
And what are those 2 to 3 things that you would like to see in society towards it becoming more inclusive?
So we have this tendency of staring, when we stare, when we think someone is different than us, we tend to stare. So I think we need to stop doing that as a society. First, it makes you very uncomfortable, because I have been stared at a lot, because people point at me constantly and say, look at her hands. So these comments, I think they really are hurtful, and I just want to be able to walk on the road without anyone staring at me. I think I want that feeling for me to have the freedom of, being able to wear what I want and not be labeled as a disabled girl. So that is one thing I would say I definitely want our society to work towards. And Another thing, I think what I have strongly believed in is diversity. I think we come from such a rich culture. Like India is known to be a very diverse country. We have so many cultures, so many languages, so many festivals. So it is natural for us to be more accepting of people who are different than us. So when we have such a diverse country, so why not accept the many diverse groups that we have, the minority groups that we have? So people with disability are one of the the minority groups, and I think we need to be more sensitive towards their needs, and we need to ensure that I think media plays a very important role in that. And having a story like me, you sharing in your platform, it will make a huge difference in the lives of people with disabilities. And that's what we need to do. Give them equal platform, give them equal opportunities. And I think I have been fortunate enough to have accessible and inclusive education. So I wish that everyone gets that kind of a platform, and everyone, in their workplace, in their school, even everyone deserves to have a relationship or a marriage. I have constantly, people have wondered that, if you're a person with disability, you're supposed to marry a person with disability. That's not true at all. I think you are a person first, you're an individual first. Your personality is first, comes first, and only after that, everyone, I would say, is disabled in some way or the other. Somebody people have invisible disabilities, or people, it's just like we talked about earlier in the session, that a negative attitude, I would say that's a huge disability in itself. So I think we need to be more inclusive, and we need to be more accepting of our diverse minority groups, and that's what I would like all of us to work towards.
Also, Malvika, one attribute of yours that's difficult to miss from the talks that I've gone through is your sense of humor. Humor comes naturally to you. And that, of course, is a refreshing perspective. How much does humor help in navigating all situations? What would you say?
I think humor has played a very important role in our lives as a family. We in our house, I think the word hand has become kind of a joke. Sometimes when we are working on a project or when we are busy, and then we are overwhelmed with a lot of work, and then we say ye to haath se chala gaya, or in some situation ye to haath se chala gaya. So I constantly used to say that when I was working on my reports as a social work trainee, that there's so much to do, when I tell my mom that, and then my mom would come and jokingly say to haath to hai nahi to kahan se jayega. So she would make such funny comments, or I have many times played pranks with my artificial hands, to scare people, or it's just been a very funny experience for me. My hand, I don't think I take it too seriously, because it's one life, and okay, I lost my hands, but I need to move past that, and being able to laugh at myself, and not constantly feeling threatened that someone is going to make fun of my hands. So I think all of that has I would say played a very big role. And I think laughter is definitely the best medicine.
You have such an infectious energy and a positive attitude. More power to you, Malvika. I'm sure after hearing you, many people would be inspired once again. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.